Thank you, Sir Gary. It's a great pleasure once again to perform under your benign sway. And I want to congratulate the Honourable Gentleman on his excellent speech, but also on the work that he does with the APPG and also the work he does on the Select Committee, as indeed he does with his honourable friend who also spoke in the debate. Such is the constructive performance that he always turns in, that when I saw the first draft from officials of this speech, he was referred to as my honourable friend in the text. I wouldn't wish to embarrass him by any suggestion of that score, but he does a great deal of good work, Sir Gary, and we're very grateful. We're also very grateful that we have the Father of the House here, which I think emphasises the importance of the subject that has been raised, but also the all-party nature of our concerns. I will, yes.
I served on the Select Committee on Overseas Development before 1979. The point I'd like to ask my right honourable friend to consider, if not to answer today, is how to go on making sure that the vaccination immunisation programmes work in times of conflict. I spent this morning with Action Against Hunger, looking at the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2417 of 2018. That's conflict and hunger, but the problem of conflict and hindering vaccination programmes is also one which needs deep consideration.
Well, let me just answer that point straight away, Sir Gary, if I may, because my right honourable friend makes a very good point, and it's worth emphasising that we are getting better in the way in which we operate in very contested spaces. He will know, for example, of the work that Education Cannot Wait is doing in very difficult circumstances, particularly where people have been forced to move or where there has been migration as a result of violence or indeed climate change. And I think on all these things we are getting better at serving communities that are in extreme difficulty. But he raised a very interesting point, and if I have anything further to add to that, I will write to him shortly. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to highlight the importance of immunisation for global health. I'm very grateful also to the Honourable Gentleman for Dundee West, who raised a number of interesting points, I think all of which I'm going to cover in my remarks, and of course to the Honourable Lady for Hornsey Wood Green, who speaks on these matters for the opposition. I'm grateful to her for the comments she made about GSK, and it's worth pointing out that this is an area where not only the private sector and the pharmaceutical industry play such a vital part, but also the philanthropic organisations, many of which are very concerned in this area. There's no doubt, as Bill Gates always says, that vaccinating children is one of the best value-for-money interventions you can make with the widest and deepest effects. And her points that she made about GSK are very welcome indeed. She asked me, Sir Gary, about the R&D issues and also about higher education. And I'll just make 2 points on that. First of all, she is absolutely right to emphasise the importance of the R&D budget. And she will notice that during a very difficult period where cuts were made in development spending, sometimes very serious cuts, she will notice that the R&D budget has been defended throughout that time. And indeed, as we have projected forward the draft figures for the R&D budget on development, we have again protected it, and it will, I think, be rising over the next few years as well. And like her, I have seen the remarkable work that this budget is doing. Both in the UK, I visited the Jenner Institute recently, and have seen the brilliant work that so many are doing there, and I agree with her about the importance of R&D. And in terms of spreading British higher education skill into Africa, I would point out to her the recently announced programme for THET, which I launched in London. THET does a huge amount of good work in this respect, and we had an excellent programme some 10 years ago, and I'm very pleased indeed we've been able to renew that. And all my colleagues who have spoken in this debate have shone a spotlight on our life-saving work with partners including Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis and Malaria, and UNIT-AID. And throughout the House, Sir Gary, we see the strong support in every part for these life-saving efforts, and I'm very grateful indeed to the contributions of members here today in that respect. I will endeavour to respond to all the points raised, but I just want to make a point specifically about Gavi, which I was asked by the honourable gentleman. He will, I think, recall that in 2011, when I had the privilege of being the Development Secretary, we did the Gavi replenishment in London, and there has been a subsequent replenishment since that time. But the point I would want to make to him is that replenishment, a pivotal one in 2011, was very heavily supported. And incidentally, Sir Gary, we know that 83% of the British public thought that spending taxpayers' money on vaccinating children under 5 in the developing world should be supported, and they showed approval for that. And I thought that that was a very encouraging statistic then. And I hope that in the upcoming replenishment, where I wish to assure the honourable gentleman, I can't put a figure on the table now, but both I and the Foreign Secretary are very focused on this replenishment because we know the good that this work does, which he so eloquently set out. So we will undoubtedly be key supporters of that replenishment when we make our contribution. And I was also asked about the Global Fund. If I may say so to the honourable gentleman, I thought a little unfairly criticising the figure. It was the first significant pledge when I returned to government in October 2022. We managed to get the system to agree. The Chancellor of the Exchequer, my right honourable friend, was very keen on spending the money on the Global Fund, and also the Prime Minister, who emphasised the importance of the work. And £1 billion, £1,000 million of taxpayers' money is not to be sniffed at. And if you look at if the honourable gentleman looks at what Peter Sands, the Chief Executive of the Global Fund, said at the time and has said subsequently about Britain's financial support, but also support in many other ways, I'm sure that his spirits will be lifted. And in respect of the pandemic accord negotiations, which I think he also mentioned, I should tell him that although I have nothing to say today, I think that they are proceeding well. The British government has spent a great deal of time on this week, and I hope that when the announcements are made in due course by Tedros from the WHO, he will be pleased and indeed relieved at what we are able to achieve. Sir Gary, vaccines have saved more than 150 million lives over the last 50 years, including more than 100 million children. That is 6 lives saved every minute for 5 decades. I'm sure we can all agree that this is one of humanity's greatest achievements. And the UK's support for childhood vaccinations around the world has played its part, together with the institutions, including the World Health Organization, Gavi, the Global Fund, and UNIT-AID. Yet the COVID pandemic threatened to undo our hard-won progress, sparking the largest reversal in child vaccination rates in 3 decades, leading to increased outbreaks and deaths. And although vaccination rates have recovered since then, global health is, as with everything, bound up with geopolitics, and we stand at a crucial juncture in that respect. In these increasingly challenging times, we can only maintain our progress on global vaccines by uniting forces and standing together to ensure the health of future generations. And let me be clear, reaching the world's children with vaccination remains a top priority for Britain, as set out so clearly in our widely endorsed International Development White Paper. We are determined to enhance our partnerships with individual countries and strengthen our collaborations with organisations like Gavi, which will help continue to save countless lives. And the UK has supported Gavi, Sir Gary, since its inception 24 years ago by bringing together governments, the private sector foundations, civil society organisations and vaccine manufacturers. It has vaccinated, that is to say, Britain has vaccinated more than 1 billion children, saving more than 17 million lives. I'm glad to say that Britain was one of the 6 original donors and hosted Gavi's most successful summits, as I said, in 2011 and in 2020, where we committed £1.65 billion over 5 years. And later that year, at the UN General Assembly, we pledged an additional £548 million to the Gavi COVAX Advanced Market Commitment to support lower-income countries with COVID vaccines. Now, we are looking ahead, working closely with Gavi to develop a strong strategy for the next 5 years. This includes reaching all children with routine immunisations and better integrating this with primary healthcare services. We want to improve coordination with other global health institutions to ensure that programmes are sustainable and, most importantly, led by countries themselves. We are also looking ahead to the gathering hosted by the French government, African Union and Gavi this summer in Paris. President Macron will launch an accelerator mechanism to help African vaccine manufacturers produce vaccines in Africa and become commercially sustainable on a long-term basis. And the UK looks forward to announcing the details of our support for this work, demonstrating the importance we place on a united global effort to improve access to vaccines and better prepare for future health emergencies. All things, Sir Gary, which I have discussed in detail with President Akin Adesina, the President of the African Development Bank. The rollout of the malaria vaccines, which were referred to not least by the Honourable Lady, who leads for the opposition, highlights the role the UK has already played in end-to-end support of innovation vaccines. First, working in collaboration with partners in India, our world-leading scientists helped to develop these game-changing new vaccines that must be used in combination with bed nets and chemo protection. Then supported by UK funding, Gavi, the Global Fund, UNITAID and the World Health Organization set up pilots to provide the evidence necessary for the wider rollout, while Britain's MedAccess, so brilliantly led by Michael Anderson, worked with Gavi to secure vaccine supply. The vaccine rollout will aim to protect more than 6 million children from malaria by the end of next year. This is the first time that Gavi and the Global Fund will be working together on a single disease, presenting a wonderful opportunity to strengthen their efforts even further. And its wider work to prevent and treat diseases like malaria, HIV and TB is also helping to save countless lives. Britain was a founding donor to UNITAID 20 years ago and has contributed more than £500 million over the years. And today, more than 170 million people benefit from health products supported by UNITAID every year, from the latest HIV treatments to next-generation mosquito nets. 2 weeks ago, on April the 24th, I was delighted to join a parliamentary reception hosted by UNITAID, where I reiterated Britain's firm support for them. Another great example of our investments in cutting-edge research and development is the recent deployment in Nigeria of the innovative MEN5 vaccine. This revolutionary new shot is a powerful shield against the 5 major strains of the bacteria that causes meningitis. The research into MEN5 was funded by Britain and then developed through a partnership between the Global Path non-profit organisation and the Serum Institute of India. The rollout of 1 million vaccines in northern Nigeria came from Gavi-funded stocks approved by the World Health Organization last year. And Sir Gary, MEN5 will be rolled out in other countries, with Niger expected to start imminently, giving a big boost to our work to end meningitis globally by the end of the decade. This is exactly, Sir Gary, the kind of scientific innovation that Britain will continue to support, driving further breakthroughs that will help to wipe out other preventable diseases. And while we are speaking of the future, let me turn to the matter of replenishments for our partners for the next 12 months, including Gavi, the Global Fund and the World Health Organization. Now, I have already addressed this in my opening remarks, Sir Gary, but we are, as I confirmed, considering how and where our funding can have the greatest impact, and as I said, we'll look forward to announcing our contributions at the replenishment events. If I may conclude, I hope I've done justice to the work between Britain and our partners that has saved countless lives. These collaborations and scientific breakthroughs have brought us a world where we have eradicated smallpox and where, thank goodness, we are on the verge of eradicating polio, something that was raised by the Honourable Gentleman. Children around the world are now protected against 19 deadly diseases through routine immunisation via Gavi. But there is, of course, Sir Gary, more to do, but we will keep up the momentum, because nobody should die of a preventable illness, and everyone everywhere should have access to these wonderful innovations. And that, Sir Gary, is how we can build a healthier and fairer world for all.